Imagine this. You're standing on the edge of the Ethiopian highlands. We're talking sheer cliffs carved into the earth, over a mile high.
The air is thin up there. It's a really rugged place.
Exactly. And then you spot movement. It's a primate, and it's one that has this presence that just makes you instantly nervous.
I mean, you see those enormous gleaming canines.
Oh, in this dark fur, a really serious, almost fierce-looking face. And then there's this bizarre red patch of skin right on its chest.
It really does look like a bleeding heart. Startlingly so.
Yeah. Everything about this animal just screams top predator.
It does. It absolutely does, visually. But, here's the profound contradiction. That fear you'd feel. It's entirely misplaced. This is the gelada.
The gelada.
And while people often call it a baboon, probably because of that size and, those fangs, it's taxonomically completely distinct.
So it's not a baboon at all?
Not at all. It's in its own genus, Therapithecus. And get this, it is the last living member of what was once this sprawling ancient lineage.
Wow. So that distinction really matters then. It's not just some unusual baboon. It's literally the sole survivor of its own special club.
Precisely. It signals this deep evolutionary divergence. It means the gelada has walked a very, very different path for a very long time.
And that path is, well, it's defined by some spectacular but very demanding adaptations.
That's putting it mildly.
Okay, so let's unpack this. We have a creature that looks like a fierce baboon descendant, but it eats grass like a cow. And apparently it has this complex vocal repertoire that researchers compare to human conversation.
Yeah, it's an animal of contradictions.
So our mission for this deep dive is to get into the source material you brought and really understand how this highly specialized terrestrial primate carved out its unique evolutionary niche so high above the rest of the world.
Worth do it.
Let's start with that diet, because this is where the whole contradiction really begins. Geladas are the only primate on Earth that eats primarily grass.
And when we say primarily, we mean it. It's a staggering number.
Something like 90% of their diet is just grass. Grass blades, seeds, roots.
Yeah, it's a diet you'd expect to see in a horse or some other large ungulate, not a primate.
Okay, so that right there raises a huge biological hurdle, doesn't it?
A massive one. If you look at a horse or a cow, they are built for this. They have specialized multi-chambered stomachs or these incredibly long digestive tracts designed to ferment and break down all that tough cellulose.
And the gelada doesn't have that.
The gelada doesn't have that luxury. Nope.
So how do they possibly overcome this? I mean, without the equivalent of a cow's 4 stomachs, how do they get anything out of grass?
They rely on what you could call microbial ingenuity.
Microbial. So bacteria.
Exactly. While their digestive system isn't structurally complex like an ungulate's, they host a highly specialized and very resilient microbiota. That's the whole collection of bacteria and microorganisms in their gut.
And that microbiota acts like a processing plant.
Essentially, yeah. It creates a fermentation vat that's powerful enough to break down the fibrous material in the grass. That's how they unlock the energy from what should be an impossible diet for them.
That sounds like a brilliant biological workaround, but it must come with a trade-off.
It does.
I mean, if you're relying on microscopic helpers, you can't be as efficient as an animal that evolved specifically for this, right? What's the cost?
The cost is time. A lot of time.
Okay.
Because they are less efficient at extracting high-quality protein and nutrients from the grass, even with their gut bacteria helping, they have to compensate with just sheer volume.
How much time are we talking?
The source material highlights that geladas spend, on average, over 10 hours a day just grazing.
10 hours?
They are constantly in motion, constantly feeding.
That constant feeding has to link directly to how they move, which I understand is another way they're completely unique.
It does. It dictates everything.
Male geladas can weigh up to 20 kilograms, which is pretty hefty, and females are about half that. And they're clumsy in trees.
Awful tree climbers. That's why they're the second most terrestrial primate in the world.
Second only to us. So if you have to eat grass for 10 hours a day without stopping, how do you even move while you're doing that?
Well, they've pioneered what researchers have very aptly named the gelada scoot.
The geladas.
Or the biped shuffle. When they graze, they adopt a squatting position on their hind feet, keeping their torsos upright.
So their hands are totally free.
Completely free. Free to process food. And then they shuffle or scoot forward in this squatting bipedal stance without ever interrupting their meal. They don't even have to stand up.
That is continuous foraging in action. And it's not just like passive plucking, is it? The sources mention those powerful fingers. They're incredibly specialized.
They are. We shouldn't think of them as just nibbling on grass blades. For protein, they have to get to the good stuff,
The roots.
the nutritious roots and rhizomes in the soil. So they use their hands to constantly sift and dig. And they're helped by having these highly opposable index fingers and thumbs, which gives them a dexterity for fine-scale foraging that almost no other primate has.
It all comes back to that demanding, high-volume, low-efficiency diet.
Everything does.
So their entire body is perfectly engineered for this constant, grounded foraging. Which brings us right back to the most glaring paradox of all, those canines.
The enormous, gleaming canines.
Yeah. If your hands are built for digging roots and you spend your day scooting around eating grass, what is all that frightening dental equipment for?
It is strictly for intimidation and defense.
Not for hunting.
No, not at all. They are not tools for hunting. They are weapons for signaling and for protecting status within a very complex social hierarchy. They're a necessary visual deterrent in a highly social and often intensely aggressive environment.
So when a gelada feels challenged, what does that display actually look like? How do they use this visual threat?
Oh, it's incredibly dramatic. It's a full-on threat display. They curl their upper lip back almost completely over their nose to expose all of their gums and teeth.
Just to show everything off.
Exactly. And the effect is heightened because they also retract their eyelids, making their pale, almost white eyelids stand in sharp contrast against their dark facial fur.
It's just a primal, clear signal. Do not mess with me.
Absolutely. Do not approach.
It sounds like a mix of fierce posturing and, I don't know, high fashion signaling. Because the males are quite striking in general, right? They have this dark, long, coarse fur around their shoulders and chest.
Mm-hmm. It cascades down almost like a dramatic cape or a shawl.
Yeah.
Really adds to their imposing stature.
But that's just part of the look.
That's right. The fur contributes to the visual display, but the true centerpiece, the real key to their internal signaling system, is that famous bleeding heart patch.
This hourglass-shaped patch of skin on the chest.
A hairless patch, and its color is highly responsive to hormone levels. It's an immediate, easily readable signal of status or reproductive readiness.
So how do you interpret that color spectrum? If you're watching a group, what does a deep red tell you versus, say, a pale pink?
In males, a darker, almost fiery red indicates extremely high social status. This is your group leader, your alpha, who has proven reproductive success.
And the pinkish ones?
A more muted pale pink color tends to signify a bachelor male, or maybe a male who's taken on a caretaker role without being the primary breeding male.
And what about for the females?
For females, the color signals their current reproductive stage. It's also affected by age and recent activity. But what's truly unique with the females,
Cool.
they also have these pearl-like knobs of skin around the edge of the chest patch.
Knocks of skin?
Yeah. And when they are ready to mate, these knobs fill with fluid and become much more prominent, almost forming a visible fluid-filled necklace around that central red hourglass.
Okay, now this is where we connect the dots back to their lifestyle. Other related primates, baboons for instance, they typically signal sexual readiness through swelling and redness of their hindquarters.
They do.
But the gelada is perpetually squatting, spending 10 hours a day with its rear end facing the ground while it scoops up grass.
Exactly. This is just a magnificent piece of evolutionary synthesis. Because their whole life, terrestrial, squatting, foraging, prevents a signal on the rear from being effective.
The signal had to move to the front.
The gelada evolved a frontal signaling system. By having the communication on their chest, the females can advertise their fertility and status in a way the males can easily see, even while she's busy keeping her head down, foraging with her backside to the earth.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, let's move from their fashion and function to their extremely complex social scene. You mentioned their society is massive. The sources say herds can be absolutely staggering.
Oh, they can, numbering well over 600 individuals sometimes.
That's not just a community, that's like a small city of primates.
And that size requires a really sophisticated system of organization to prevent total chaos.
How does that work?
The basic unit is the one-male unit, or OMU. These consist of a single, dominant male leader, several female geladas who mate exclusively with him, and of course they're young.
And these little family units all hang out together.
These individual units then aggregate into those massive multi-male herds. And outside of these breeding units, you also have all-male bachelor groups.
Whose main job is to cause trouble.
Their primary mission is to challenge the established leaders for reproductive access.
Given that the stakes are access to an entire unit of females, I imagine the conflict is intense. We heard a fight between two males can last a really long time.
The challenge for leadership can absolutely stretch into these marathon conflicts, lasting up to 3 days.
3 days.
They are exhausting, high-stakes battles that determine the social structure for that entire OMU. If the challenger succeeds, he takes over. He gets exclusive reproductive access.
And managing all that tension in these huge societies must require an equally complex communication toolkit.
It has to. Which brings us to their vocal repertoire, a topic that has just captivated researchers.
Right. The Gelada has one of the most varied and complex communication systems among all primates. They've got barks, squeals, calls, grunts.
And what's so fascinating is that they often combine these diverse sounds into specific sequences. It's almost like they're forming rudimentary sentences or phrase structures to convey really nuanced meaning.
So it's more than just a simple alarm call.
Far beyond that, they are constantly exchanging these vocalizations, essentially, chatting with one another to maintain social cohesion within those massive herds.
And the specific sound researchers found most compelling is called the wobble.
The wobble, yes.
It sounds strange. It's like a combination of lip smacking and vocalization, but researchers noted it has a rhythm and acoustic similarity that is highly reminiscent of human speech patterns.
That's the key insight. The rhythm of the wobble is what's so striking to us. And crucially, it is always used in a friendly, affiliative context.
So it's a social bonding tool.
Exactly. They're using this almost speech-like sound constantly during their close-range interactions, like when they're sitting together, grooming, or resting.
And it's not just sounds. They use facial expressions, too.
They're masters of them. The infants learn social cues early by just constantly mimicking their mother's expressions.
Speaking of infants, we should just mention that baby geladas are born with these adorable little pointy ears that later get covered by fur.
It emphasizes how intensely social they are right from birth. They're always engaging in mock biting and play fighting.
And they always clarify their intent, right?
Always. When they engage in mock aggression, they have this specific grin that says clearly to their playmate, this is just for fun, it's not a real threat.
So after their 10-hour grazing shift, all that socializing and grooming, they need to be safe.
And that safety is found high up on the cliffs. The very same rugged terrain that forces them to be terrestrial also serves as their bedroom.
It's the ultimate survival strategy.
It is. The cliffs provide essential shelter from predators like hyenas, but the higher altitudes also happen to be where the most palatable, high-quality grasses and roots grow. Their entire lives, feeding, socializing, resting, are intrinsically linked to the vertical geography of the Ethiopian highlands.
So what does this all mean? We've looked at a primate that relies on a unique gut biome to survive on grass, communicates through intricate speech-like patterns to manage huge societies, and uses its chest as an evolutionary workaround for its lifestyle.
They are an animal of brilliant, complicated contradictions.
And this brilliant adaptation, this very specialized high-altitude existence, is precisely what makes them so vulnerable today.
It is. While the remaining populations have some protection within the Simien Mountains National Park, geladas face severe threats that directly target the very specialization that defines them.
You're talking about external pressures hitting their specific niche. What are the primary dangers right now?
The main threat is human expansion in the Ethiopian highlands. Rapid population growth and the need for more agriculture mean that the limited land where geladas graze is under intense pressure.
So people are moving up the mountains.
People move their livestock higher up, and they compete directly with the geladas for those very specific palatable grasses the primates need. Their habitat is literally being eroded and consumed.
And I assume climate change just compounds that threat, especially for a species that relies on certain plants at very specific elevations.
Absolutely. Climate change disrupts the delicate microclimates that support the grasses the geladas need. If those grasses shift their range or decline in quality because of changing rainfall or temperature, the gelada has nowhere else to go.
They're trapped by their own success.
In a way, yes. Their evolutionary specialization in the highlands now restricts their ability to adapt to rapid environmental changes.
Given their unique reliance on everything we've talked about, the grasses, the terrestrial lifestyle, that social structure, they stand so dramatically apart from every other primate. This whole deep dive really shows how a brilliant evolutionary compromise works in practice. And it raises an important question for you to mull over. If the Gelada's intense reliance on the very specific resources of the Ethiopian highlands is what forced this evolutionary shift away from what we think of as typical for a primate,
Hmm.
how might we categorize other specialized creatures that live right on the functional edge of what their body is designed to
A
handle?
fascinating thought.
The Gelada shows us that sometimes adaptation looks less like seamless perfection and more like a brilliant high-stakes evolutionary gamble.